Good morning. Today I'm going to be giving you an update regarding homicide number 42 for 2014, the murder of Mr. Andrew Surage. Mr. Surage was 42 years old at the time of his death, and he left behind a wife of 8 years and children as well. He worked for 10 years as a route manager for Interstate Batteries, servicing car dealerships. Mr. Surage had no contact with the police. On Saturday, October 4th, Mr. Surage was out with some friends, and they attended several get-togethers before ending up at an after-hours club early Sunday morning, and that would be October 5th. They attended an after-hours club called Captain Social Club, which is located at 325 Weston Road. And this after-hours club is not licensed by the Liquor Control Board to serve alcoholic beverages. Mr. Surage and his friends did not like the atmosphere of this club once they got in and decided almost immediately that they were going to leave, although they did stay for a short period of time. After exiting, a friend of Mr. Surage's was approached by a male suspect. This male spoke briefly with his friend and then grabbed a chain from around the friend's neck. This friend of Mr. Surage's was also assaulted during the theft of his chain. Mr. Surage came to his friend's aid and asked the suspect to return the chain. The suspect refused and left the area. At approximately 5:42 a.m., video surveillance captured the suspect walking back to a vehicle that was parked nearby, and I believe it was at this point that the suspect retrieved a handgun. The suspect then returned to the area of Mr. Surage and his friend that he had robbed. The suspect produced the handgun and fired one shot, which struck Mr. Surage. Mr. Surage died shortly after of his injury. The cause of death was a gunshot wound to the chest. The suspect then fled the scene in a vehicle, which investigators believe to be a dark-colored, late model, possibly Honda Accord. During the investigation, video surveillance was collected from the scene, and it reveals that the suspect and 3 other people attended the area of the after-hours club at least 2.5 hours prior to the shooting. The surveillance shows that the suspect was in the company of 2 male blacks and a female black. All 3 of these people are considered persons of interest at this point in the investigation. The suspect and the persons of interest all arrived in the same vehicle. The suspect can be best described from witnesses as being a male, non-white, but with light skin, and I'm talking about the male on the left side of your screen. He was between 5'10" and 6 feet, with a muscular build, black curly hair, which he wore in a small ponytail, and he was wearing dark clothing, including a hoodie. At least one of the persons of interest who accompanied the suspect that night witnessed the robbery of Mr. Surage's friend. Another person of interest was with the suspect when we believe the suspect stored the gun in the vehicle prior to exiting it. At the moment leading up to the shooting, I believe the persons of interest were aware that the suspect had access to a gun, and further, that those same persons of interest are now aware that the suspect shot Mr. Surage. I'm asking the public to have a look at these images and see if they recognize anybody pictured. And if they do, I want them to call me. Now, the suspect, as you can see in this photo, to the left of the screen, appears to be wearing a white jacket with dark sleeves. But in fact, it is a dark jacket. This is a product of the camera technology, which seems to reflect off the material that the suspect was wearing. But there is other footage to suggest, and witnesses also advise that it was actually a dark jacket. And the same goes for the persons of interest on the right side of the screen. Although it does appear that they're wearing light clothing, the jackets were in fact a dark color. Now, I've also brought a picture of, just down below here, of a police car and an officer standing by the police car. This is an image taken from the same video footage the night of the investigation. And as you can see, the police officer appears to be wearing a light or white colored uniform. And Toronto police officers wear black uniforms, so it's just to illustrate to you how that camera footage is capturing the darker material. If you're one of the persons of interest in this surveillance footage, I urge you to contact me and assist with the investigation. Video surveillance also shows that the parking lot of this after-hours club was full of cars that night, and once the shooting took place, everyone fled the scene without talking to police, and that's with the exception of the friends of Mr. Surage who had attended. They've cooperated with police. The other people who attended the after-hours left without speaking to officers. If you were there that night and saw the suspect shoot Mr. Surage, I urge you to listen to your conscience and call me. Investigators are in the process of contacting some of the patrons who fled the scene prior to police arrival. So even if you didn't witness the actual shooting, I urge you to call me. My direct line is 416-808-7400, extension 77405. I'll take any questions if you have any.
How much trouble are these witnesses, these people that came along with him?
Although I say they are aware of what happened, they do have the chance to come and speak with me and provide me with information. If they've done anything, obviously, to assist in him getting away with this offense, then that's a different matter. But at this point, I would like them to contact me if they have a conscience and advise me of what they know.
You mentioned that one of the persons of interest may have witnessed the robbery. Do you know which one in particular?
I'm not going to comment on which one. Just suffice to say that we know that one of them witnessed the actual robbery.
And only one shot was fired?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you believe that he was targeting Mr. Surage, or was he just firing at a friend?
Well, once the robbery took place, there was some interaction between Mr. Surage, the victim of the robbery, and the suspect. But we have no reason to believe they did anything other than protest the robbery. Why he came back and decided to shoot is something that only the suspect knows.
Pretty brutal, would you say? Just to describe that whole thing for me. What do you think about it?
Well, anytime somebody loses their life, it's something that's very distressing.
But it seems like it was such a small matter.
Yes, I would agree. I don't think anybody deserves to lose their life, let alone over a theft of a chain.
Did it appear that the victim, his friend, or any of the people that he's with knew the suspect and the person's interest?
No indication of that whatsoever. They ended up at that place quite by chance, at the last minute, just trying to extend their evening. I believe they were friends who hadn't seen each other for some period of time, so they're just looking to extend their evening. And as I said, they did feel uncomfortable being there and decided to leave, and unfortunately, that was the result.
You mentioned that the victim was a husband and a father. Can you elaborate how many kids he had and their ages or anything like that, and how they're doing?
I believe he had 5 children, and I'm not 100% sure of the exact age range.
That chain, is that the chain we're talking about?
No, that's Mr. Surage. The chain was taken from a friend of Mr. Surage's.
Any video you can provide?
Not at this point, just the images that I provided to you.
What did they say about the club that made them feel so uncomfortable?
It just wasn't their scene. I think it was a younger crowd. Mr. Surage and his friends were in their late 40s, and it was just not the kind of place that they would normally go to.
Is this the first time there's been trouble at this club?
I don't believe it's the first time. I believe there has been other issues.
Explain this to us.
The investigation that I'm conducting is only in relation to this incident. There have been previous incidents that would have been dealt with involving the division.
Do you know if the club is going to face any repercussions just based on the fact that they're not licensed?
Yeah, again, that would be part of an investigation that would be handled at the division. And as I stated, it's not even a licensed club. It holds itself out to be a private club, and that would be an investigation conducted by the division.
Any other questions? One more. Was the actual shooting caught on camera?
I can't comment on what we actually have on video. The only images I can provide at this point are the ones that I have provided today.
You know, Victor, are the images on the website?
They will be, yes. Yeah, we'll only get on.
See? Okay.
Thank you.
Very much. That concludes today's conference.